we're good friends in real life, but recently we became friends on Facebook. And I saw this.
Wait.
So that needs some explaining. I thought it was high school, but then I'm like, that can't be high school.
Why could that not be high school, man?
Because you look like a 30-year-old man on the town.
Wait a minute. Did I not tell you that I've worked since I've been 14 years old? I told you that, like, when kids would go out to Gene West and buy clothes, I went to a place called JP Todd's and they had suits 4 for $100. So like all summer I ended up with like 9 suits. Or wait a minute, I ended up with like 12 suits, excuse me. And they was all interchangeable. So it was nothing for me to wear a suit once a week to school, man. I was about that life, man.
I guess so. You still are.
Oh man, you got me with that one. Anyway, that was me at Washington High School, class of 1980, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. That's your boy.
Love it.
Got something to say, you wanted to play, then come running my way and ruin G-status is dead. No, ready to go, about to go in, you already know. Got my instructions, now give me your audience, hand me your mic and I'm ready to blow. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 for everybody who encouraged me to go, get it. We finally did it, I ain't never turning back, shawty. I'm fully committed to my beliefs, I'm committed to the city. I'm about to give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for.
And now, from a cave behind a waterfall in the heart of the Ozarks, it's the cipher of the classified, the riddler of the ridiculous, the speaker of the surreptitious, and the host of JimSpiracy, Jimmy Dodds.
I love that opening. I love that theme song. Hey, welcome to JimSpiracy. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Jimmy Dodds, a.k.a. Uncle Jimmy. Hey, I want to welcome y'all to another episode of JimSpiracy. Hey, first of all, you need to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that phone a friend, do all of that stuff that they asked you to do, because don't keep this thing to yourself. Share it with some people. Hey, tonight we're going to talk chemtrails. Our guest is going to be Peter A. Kirby. He's the author of ChemTrails Exposed. He said it's a new Manhattan project. Think you're going to enjoy this. What do you think about this, Chris?
This is going to be good. I'm looking forward to this guy. Like, there's so many reviews online of this book and how authentic it is and how well researched it is. So I'm really looking forward to you talking to him.
Wait a minute, but hold on. Because you're not a big chemtrails person.
No, I'm a skeptic. I just believed the contrail thing, that it's just condensation. But I will say, and I texted to this picture to you the other day.
Exactly.
I saw this one. This is a picture I took myself in my neighborhood, and it freaked me out because it looked like a pentagram. And I'm like, are they throwing that in our face? And that's what made me start wondering about it and tracking down the experts on this.
Well, I want to thank you. I want to welcome you to the club. Hey, before I get to going any further, man, how you been feeling?
I've been feeling good. I haven't been scanned again, so I don't know what the cancer's doing, except that I'm feeling good. And I even started running a little bit, and I did see my doctor, and they don't really have anything for me right now. And I said, I'm feeling so good, I'm thinking going back to tennis. And the nurse laughed at me, and that made me want to do it even more. So I called up my old tennis partner and hoping to get out on the court in the next week or so.
I don't know how I feel about that, Chris. I really think you need to stay right there with Mary Beth and
we'll see.
And get rubbed by that glove from the Pope.
Yeah, Padre Pio glove. Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's get go. Hey, by the way, I like the little Twitter poll you put up.
Yeah, and go ahead and vote. I think it's still up, but as of this taping, it's almost even on ChemTrails.
And you know what I think is interesting is you have people say, no, I've never heard of it, but there's 36.8% of people who said, oh, most definitely, there's something up. And hold on, 23.7% is like, never heard of them. But to me, when you say never heard of them, that means that you could possibly, hey man, that's a pretty good poll, man.
Yeah, and despite being a skeptic, I have a feeling after tonight, I'll be a lot closer to believing. And I bet our audience will too, because this guy's a serious dude.
Okay. Hey man, let's do some news with Told You So. Here we go. Hey man, this is an underrated part of the show. This is called Told You So. And this is where we take a few of the headlines and we talk about the headlines that mean something to us, okay? So let's go with it. What you got for me, Chris?
All right, I'm going to play you part of this video of Houston rap star Big Pokey.
Big Pokey.
Hold me something, man. Hey, DJ. Come on, man. Give me some pet or something, man. Stop playing with the Big Pokey.
Oh!
Dang.
Oh, my damn.
So that's Big Pokey, and God bless him. He's no longer with us. So...
Oh... So let me guess, was his name really Big Pokey? Because I heard somebody call him Pokey. So did Pokey get the Pokey?
I think so. As per usual, nobody answers that question, but there's been so many of these lately. You could tell, I don't think the guy's 40 years old and just down for the count.
Wow.
Which I'm going to refer
goodness.
people back to, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice there's a gap where episode 15 is supposed to be. That got pulled down by YouTube, and you can only find it on Rumble. So look up JimSpiracy on Rumble, and we think the clot shot is what took down Big Pokey.
Chris, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth, Chris. Come on, man. You know. Hey man, for us to be a group of first timers, do you know how many people called me, texted me? We had people reaching out to us on Twitter saying, "Wow, that was really a stiff penalty for you guys' first offense." So I didn't say that, YouTube. That was him.
And
okay, let's keep going, man.
One thing I wanted to say is, now our last episode was also about the Big Pokey. With Dr. McCullough, and they did not pull that down. And I was going to edit it before I put it up, and I just said, oh, what the hell, we get 3 strikes, we've only used 1. I'll put it up, and they didn't censor it at all. So, I don't know.
WHIP.
Whip it real good?
No. White has his privileges. I'm talking. Come on, man. What's the next story, man?
All right. Equally weird. Just read that headline out loud for people who are listening on their headphones instead of watching.
What does that say? What kind of clad? What kind of?
Scantily.
What's the first? Scantily clad witches caught. What? Read that, Chris.
Scantily clad witches caught munching on deer carcass in bizarre security cam footage.
See, that ain't even coming out of my mouth. Oh, hell to the no. Oh, bro, you got chills going on down my left side, Chris.
They just went out there and started
Whoa,
munching.
wait a minute. What is that, a hand? Whoa, is that a hand? What is that? Reaching out, or is that?
That is weird.
Is that a deer
I didn't
bone?
notice
Deer
that
bone.
the first time I pulled that photo.
That looks like a hand. Is that a hand?
There's an extra foot coming out of her butt, too. What is that? I don't know. The whole thing.
Listen.
I don't know what to say about it.
Listen. You up here showing all these freaky pics, but when we talked about one of these other stories, you said that they was fake, but now you show me some butt-ass naked women eating raw deer meat with a foot coming out their butt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're going to get to the Las Vegas thing in a minute. And I did think that was fake.
Wow.
But this one, there's no denying the security cam caught the footage.
That women will get naked and eat a raw deer. There's no...
Ugh.
Okay, come on, man. Let's go.
Okay,
What you got?
and everyone's talking about the Titanic submarine that imploded. But you made a really good point. You said, did you hear how they were controlling that sub?
Yeah. A Logitech PlayStation 3 controller.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
You are controlling this submarine with a game controller.
Yeah. And
come on, man.
Apparently in the submarine community, people were worried about this sub from the get-go. Maybe that was one of the reasons. But Jim Cameron, the director of Titanic, said, we knew the sub was in trouble because they didn't use standard materials. They used some kind of other material that was not going to be stable under pressure.
He used stuff from his home.
Really? I didn't hear that part.
Evidently, I don't want to say his home, but it's a homemade submarine.
Oh, man.
Now, man, I could be wrong, but that's some arrogant crap right there. I can just go out in my garage and I can build this and it'll be fine. Man, you going down there dealing with the Titanic.
Yeah.
And did you hear how much money? Did you hear how much money these people paid to be on this thing?
Oh, I think it was like $1 million.
So in other words, all of these people paid $1 million to die, right?
Yeah.
Hey, man, you can come to my neighborhood right now and you can die for free. The hell you spending $1 million for?
All right, that's the last word on that.
What the hell?
And the big story, we haven't been on for a couple weeks, was the Las Vegas UFO.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play a couple videos here because this one's from the news. I'm just going to play the first part of it. But the first thing that happened was something in the sky.
It's almost midnight on May 1st when a Las Vegas Metro police officer's body cam catches this, something flashing low in the sky.
911 emergency.
Minutes later,
there's like an 8-foot person beside it.
Okay, so now I'm going to play you a 911 call. And this is real. This is a real call.
And another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us.
Hold on. Let me play it with... The fun part of this is somebody edited the 911 call, which is definitely real, with another video.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Now, why didn't you see? Now there you go, WHIP. Hey, we don't know if somebody edited or not. See, there you go. Now, did nobody edit them white women eating that butt-ass naked eating that deer, did they? Did they?
Here
now, you didn't say that.
Good point. Good point.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Wow.
Did you hear what he said they were? Did you hear what he said they were?
He said they look
He
like
said they're aliens.
Yeah.
Now, remember the show we did, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, about the Nephilim?
Oh, yeah.
8, 10 feet tall individuals?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, remember we did a show 3 or 4, maybe
last summer we
maybe
did a
5
show
months ago
with Nathaniel Gillis about aliens being demons.
Okay. Remember a couple of weeks after that we did a show, or we were on the show, we talked about CERN and opening a portal.
Yeah. It's all coming together.
And remember, one of my concerns was when we open this portal, we're going to open ourselves up to things that we have no idea what we've done.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I don't think that you know, and I don't know how true it is, but rumor is that family, that guy that made that call, they're nowhere to be found now.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, okay, you could say, oh, well, they're not talking to anyone. And God knows, I hope that that's what it is. Honestly, I'm not going to play no gyms. I hope that that's what it is. But people that have been watching the home, and, of course, you're going to have people now that's going to be there with cameras. They can't find the people, man. So you have me wondering if maybe you answered the door to a couple of men in black suits.
That's messed up.
Okay. Hey, I need some of you guys to respond to me about all of these little things. Also, if I may add this, Chris, because a lot of these stories that we do, people don't know, these stories come from people that text us, they email us, and they say, hey, talk about this, talk about this.
Yeah.
So I want to know what you think about these. And I want to know your opinion on this. And if you got something you want to hear us talk about on JimSpiracy, because Lord knows we can't find them all, reach out to us, man.
Yeah, definitely keep the comments going. On YouTube, we read them all. We always put a clip up on Jimmy's Twitter, at Uncle Jimmy Dodds. So comment there, and whether it's on something we already showed you or if it's a new story you'd like to see us cover, we love the interaction.
All right. You got any more crazy mess to show us, Chris?
That's it for today.
You
let's
you done outdone yourself on this one. Hey, listen, y'all. We're going to be right back with Peter Kirby. But first, can we play this clip of the Purple Prince of Passion talking about chemtrails?
Phenomena of chemtrails. And, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time. And say, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And the next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay? And you really didn't know why.
Wow. Welcome back. See, it was interviews that Prince did like that to kind of explain why he's not with us anymore right now. Our guest tonight is Peter A. Kirby. He's the author of ChemTrails Exposed, a new Manhattan project. His website is peterakirby.com. Peter, welcome to the JimSpiracy Show.
Hey,
tell me something, man. Have you ever heard that clip right there from Prince?
Oh yeah, it's in my book.
Okay. Tell the people a little about yourself, Peter. Tell them something about your background. Let them know who you are.
Well, I was basically a know-nothing until I realized that we were being sprayed. There's a whole story behind that. I'll kind of boil it down. I got into looking at the new media when I realized that there were a lot of problems with the official story of 9/11. In fact, so many that I came to the conclusion that, it was a hoax, or at least the official story of it was false. I can say that. And, without going into all the evidence of that, I think most of your viewers are probably hip to that information. But for me, this was a mind blower. This was 8 years after 9/11. So for 8 years, they had fooled me into believing the official story of 9/11. And when I realized that it was false, I said to myself, okay, what else have they been up to? Right. So I started looking at the new media, and there were, lots of different stories, lots of different conspiracies, things that you've covered on your show. One in particular was this chemtrail thing. And I saw it, and I said to myself, no, that can't be. Why would they just do that? Because that just destroys everything. And, these people who run the world, they own like everything. Why would they want to destroy all their own stuff, And, but so I wrote it off initially, put it on the back burner, was looking into other things just because I found it interesting. But then this chemtrail thing, I kept on seeing more evidence for it. And I saw so much evidence for it that I eventually realized that it was a thing. And when I realized that, this was just completely unacceptable to me that this would be going on. I decided in my own little way I was going to fight it.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Kirby. You compared chemtrails to 9/11. Help me out with that.
Well, it wasn't so much a comparison as sort of a gateway to it.
You mean the lies that they told regarding 9/11 kind of opened your eyes to, we can't believe everything that we hear these people tell us?
Yeah. I mean, I'm waiting for the show. I haven't seen your show on 9/11, but I'm sure you're hip to all the problems of the official story. I mean, do we have to go into it? 47-story tall building number 7 falls straight down into its own footprint on the afternoon of 9/11.
Wait a minute.
Not mentioned
right
in the
there.
9/11 official report.
There you go. Oh, also, I'm still waiting to see the video of the jet flying into the Pentagon. I'm just still waiting.
That was the thing. That was the thing that sparked my interest. I was at work at a pizza place one night. We were cleaning up, and the topic of 9/11 came up. And my buddy said, "I don't know what happened on 9/11, but I know that a plane didn't hit the Pentagon." And that, of course, as I say, at that time, I was unhip to 9/11 being any kind of conspiracy. So I went home and I just did an image search of Pentagon 9/11. And the number one search result at the time, it's probably been scrubbed since then, but the number one search result at the time was an aerial shot of the Pentagon with a hole in the side of the building. The hole was about 20 feet in diameter. It was a symmetrical hole, and there was no debris. And it was not consistent with a jet airplane having hit the building, because you'd have the wings causing damage, and then the most damage would be caused by the engines, which are the heaviest part of the airplane. There would be tremendous damage extending out from the hole where the fuselage hit, but there was none of that in the picture. And so this is another smoking gun of 9/11, and it just goes on and on. So there's so much there that I did become convinced, and I am still convinced to this day, that the official story of 9/11 is false. You can prove that. And so that just opened up a whole world of things to me. And the most extreme thing that I was looking at was this chemtrail thing. And, you have to, when you're looking at these things, you have to put certain things inside the circle and other things outside of the circle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe the earth is flat, even though there are people on the internet saying that it is.
Okay, Chris, cut him off. Cut him off on that note right there. I don't even got nothing else to say to him. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, you're serious for a second there, man.
No, not at all. So I got a question for you. I'm sorry, because I got another question for you. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Because you talked about when we say chemtrails, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, what are they spraying? What is it that they're spraying, and why in the hell are they? And what are they doing, and why are they doing it?
Okay, what and why? Yes, I do believe that my book, ChemTrails Exposed, A New Manhattan Project, does cover every single question that could be asked about chemtrails. And of course, if you know anything about journalism, there is the what, the why, the when, the where, and the how, right? And so
Exactly.
Jimmy's asking the what and the why. So let's start with what, and that the answer to that is coal fly ash. And I'll also just answer the why, or actually, we'll get why I put in my chapter motives. So we'll get to that afterward. Like what is the incentive for doing all this? But okay, what they're spraying us with, and this has been asserted by a world famous PhD scientist, along with the sitting director of the Monroe County, Florida Department of Health, Dr. Whiteside. And both of these guys have been writing peer-reviewed, published journal articles where they talk about chemtrails just like I'm talking to you about them now. They say we are being sprayed, and they have scientifically determined what the substance is that we're being sprayed with. And that substance is something called coal fly ash, or more commonly, coal fly ash. And this is a toxic waste byproduct of the coal-fired electrical power plant industry. It is the smoke from burning coal. Coal is the number one substance that is burned at power plants to produce electricity. And the reason you don't see giant clouds of smoke coming out of coal-fired electrical power plants these days is because over the decades they've developed these scrubbers. They're commonly known as scrubbers. Their scientific term for them is electrostatic precipitators. And these are big boxes, and they route the exhaust from the power plant through the electrostatic precipitator, and this takes out all of the smoke, all of the particulate matter. So they've been collecting this substance for years, right? And it would be significantly expensive for them to dispose of this toxic waste byproduct, and it is highly toxic. It would cost them quite a bit of money to dispose of this properly, but instead they are apparently being paid to produce this material for the chemtrail spraying operations and spray it all over us. So
okay, why?
Oh, why? Why would they do this? Right. This is another great question, and I have a whole chapter in my book called Motives. So every crime has a motive, right? And
yes.
Let me start writing these down here. And the overall thrust of the project is weather modification.
Whoa.
There are other things going on. And if you'll notice on the cover of my book, I'd like to talk about this for a second.
Please
if you could put it back up, that would be great. This looks like an explosion from a nuclear bomb, right?
It looks like to me, looks like a flathead mushroom.
But it's not. Look, it's the base of the cloud is up in the air. It's not coming off of the ground. You see, this is what happens when you dump silver iodide, which is the industry standard for the known weather modification industry. When you dump silver iodide into a cloud from an airplane, it does that. A certain type of cloud, it does that. It just makes that pattern, a mushroom cloud, like there's an atomic bomb going off. So I thought that was very apropos. But this whole weather modification thing, you can actually see that it came out of the original Manhattan Project, which was the first project to produce nuclear bombs. And although those two things don't seem very congruous, they actually are. One, you can look at things like when they detonated nuclear bombs, testing them, they would need to know the fallout pattern. So this leads into atmospheric sciences, right? Where is all that stuff that they're exploding? Where is it going to go? Depending on atmospheric conditions, it's going to go this way, that way, or the other way, right? So they needed to know about what's going to happen once this stuff is put up in the atmosphere. And but so let's look at the benefits that can be reaped from weather modification. There was actually, and to this day, there is a precursor to what I call the new Manhattan Project, and this is the above board weather modification industry, where they dump usually silver iodide into clouds to produce rain or suppress hail, but it's usually producing rain. And these power companies, specifically, I name in the book, have evidence of PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, which is the company that provides power to me here in the Bay Area, as well as Southern California, Edison, and other power producers. They have been reaping the benefits of weather modification for many years. They are able to increase the snowpack that feeds reservoirs which have hydroelectric power generators on them. They've been doing this for ever since the end of World War II. And so that's big money. When you can put more water behind a reservoir that's generating electricity, that's you're talking big money.
Okay, hold on. Help me out here for a second, because so if they're doing weather modification, I don't think that there's a state in America, I know I'm probably wrong, that they're not saying is going through a drought. Does this have anything to do with chemtrails?
Oh yeah, big time. I do believe that they've been starving, particularly California.
There's the word I was looking for. Hold on. There's the word I was looking for right there. Starving. Because if you have a drought, guess what you don't have? You're not able to grow food. You're not able to grow crops. You're not able to feed your cattle. Come on, Mr. Kirby. Why in the hell? Why would you do this to your country? And you know that you're starving the people. You know that you're killing the land. You're killing the crops. You're killing the animals. What's happening there?
You know, it's hard to get inside the heads of these people. It's either just selfishness. It goes from selfishness to evil.
There you go. Well, you my man. You my man, Pete. Thank you very much. You're my man. Exactly. Because I'm sorry for interrupting you, but that's the word. You were being nice saying selfish. No, they some evil asses. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm done. I ain't going to interrupt you no more.
I could even say it goes from foolishness to evil. I think a lot of people who are involved in the periphery of these things, spraying us with stuff, they've been indoctrinated into these beliefs that what they're doing is good for us. Let's take the geo-engineering programs, for example. I have seen quite a bit of evidence that, Harvard has, geoengineering is the term that they use as code for today's New Manhattan Project. And they have a whole department dedicated to geoengineering at Harvard. And there's, different ways that people can be educated about geoengineering all over the country and all over the world. And I have seen quite a bit of evidence that these people who go into and come out of these programs where they're indoctrinated into believing that spraying us with tens of thousands of megatons of toxic waste every year is a good thing. They have been indoctrinated with the idea that, it's like chemotherapy, because if global warming is allowed to proliferate, then we're really screwed. This is the thought process, I believe.
Okay, let me try to remain sensible here. Contrails means condensation trails, right? Contrails, that's what that means, right?
Yes.
Now the scientific community says that it's just condensation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so either they're not getting poisoned. What do you think about that? What do you think about the scientific community saying,
that is easily disproven, the idea that this is just harmless water vapor. I disprove that in the first paragraph in the first chapter of my book, where I note that all these different government agencies are saying, it's just water vapor, don't worry about it. But water vapor, if it was water vapor, it would dissipate very quickly. Instead, we have stuff that comes out of the plane and then, spreads out slowly over the course of hours and turns into a haze, and, and then, it comes down to earth and all this stuff, creating just, pollution. And so, they're saying it's water vapor, but that's not how water vapor behaves.
Mm-hmm.
Water vapor just doesn't behave like that. particulate matter behaves like that. It's a simple observation, and there's many other observations that you can make that prove that we're being sprayed, such as we have video of things like planes flying along and planes flying along, and the trail coming out of it will stop abruptly, and then the plane will move on a little further, and then it'll start up abruptly again. I mean, I think it's safe to assume they're not turning the engines off and on.
Hold on. Now right there. Okay. Because this comes to a question that I wanted to ask you. Matter of fact, here's one of those vehicles, right? One of those videos right here. If I'm not mistaken, there you go. You see it? Just stop. Okay. Because I don't know if you talk about this in the book, and maybe I'm completely wrong. But like we just watched with that video of Prince talked about how it affected the people in his neighborhood. Are there neighborhoods that are getting more chemtrails than others, i.e. your urban neighborhoods?
Well, yes, because that is where the people are. And these weather modification programs, another motive that I have is the manipulation of financial markets based on the rise and fall of the weather, or the rise and fall of temperatures is the main area that they concentrate on there. And so, when you have an urban area that's consuming lots of power, well, then if you can make it colder or warmer, or make it rain or snow or whatever you want to do, this changes how people use power. And the weather makes a big difference as to how much power people use, and I even trace the academic history of the origins of this whole weather modification financial markets. There's the weather derivatives industry. This is a financial market that continues to this day. There's the catastrophe reinsurance market that is heavily involved with different weather phenomenon going on. And, if these weather phenomenon took place in Wyoming, it's probably not going to affect anybody, right? Because there's not many people in Wyoming. So, it is concentrated in the population centers. Absolutely.
Why do you call it the New Manhattan Project? For people that don't know what the Manhattan Project is, could you kind of just tell them real quickly, please?
Yes, the Manhattan Project was the secret World War II project that involved probably tens of thousands of people. That was a big secret, and nobody knew about it until the bomb went off in Japan. Bombs went off in Japan. And so just that right there shows you a parallel between what's going on here. People say, oh, no, this isn't happening. How could that be? There's this huge apparatus. You don't need all this stuff and all this money and all this people. Yeah, they did it already. It was called the Manhattan Project. And they're doing it again. And the reason I call this a New Manhattan Project is because there's just so many parallels. A lot of the original scientists that worked on the original Manhattan Project went into weather modification after the war, and there's lots of other parallels that can be drawn here. But that's the main.
If I may ask this question, where did a lot of those scientists come from? Are these American scientists, or are these scientists that came from where the Manhattan Project was going on?
Some of them were American. Some were European, and I think the Nazis. Apparently, the Nazis were working on their own bomb. I've seen some evidence, people saying that they were far along on their producing their own nuclear bomb, but we just beat them to it somehow. And that could have been something that was worked out at the highest levels of world power as well, just to have
Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, and then so this is what I was about to say. Yeah, and then after the war, I have evidence in my book that these former Nazi scientists that were brought into America via Operation Paperclip, I have evidence of a lot of them working on weather modification things projects and things related to the new Manhattan Project. There's a whole chapter in my book. I call it The Nazis and the CIA, because it was the CIA that brought in all the Nazis during Operation Paperclip. And so I mean, they're not going to have any problem with spraying us with all kinds of crap, right?
Okay, I got to ask you about, but on that note, is there any connection to what we're talking about in the fluoride connection?
Yeah, that's my most recent paper. It's an article on Activist Post where I'm a staff writer, and it's a video on my Rumble channel called The Abstract. And so what I basically did for that one was I combined the information in my book with a book by a guy named Christopher Bryson. He wrote a book called The Fluoride Deception. And some of his most interesting findings was that he looked back at the whole history of water fluoridation. And we know that what fluoride, the stuff that they call fluoride, it's not even really fluoride, they put it in the water and we drink it. We know it's highly toxic. They just say that it isn't. And but if you look back at the history of that, it would be expensive for them to. It's a toxic waste byproduct of the phosphate mining industry in Florida at the time. So it would be expensive for them to get rid of it. But instead, they put it in our drinking water. You see how that works?
Yes.
But yeah, Bryson's most interesting finding in his book was that the number one promoter of water fluoridation after the war, after World War II in the late 40s and into the 50s, was a guy by the name of Dr. Harold Hodge. Harold Hodge was the chief toxicologist for the original Manhattan Project. For the original Manhattan Project. Chief toxicologist. And the original Manhattan Project produced just massive amounts of fluoride, the same stuff that they get from the fluoride, the phosphate mining industry in Florida. So they had all this toxic material from the original Manhattan Project. They knew it was horribly toxic. There's lots of documented evidence of people being exposed to fluoride and just dying like really quickly. And he knew how toxic it was. And yet him and all his buddies at the University of Rochester, they became the number one point people on water fluoridation in America and the world. So there you go. There's another one. It really just goes on and on and on. Parallels between the original Manhattan Project and what I call the new Manhattan Project.
I don't know if you told me about this, but there's a Dr. Herndon and there's a Dr. Whiteside, right? Now, they had evidence of this, right? What was some of their evidence?
Well, their main thesis, although they've gone on, the first thing they needed to do, and this was earlier on in their peer-reviewed journal articles, they determined that the substance that we're being sprayed with is coal fly ash. And then from there, they went on to write papers about, okay, what does that do to our environment? What does that do to us? What does that do to all the animals and the insects and stuff? And this evidence was available because there had been studies done many decades ago when there were power plants spewing out all the coal fly ash, right? So there were plenty of scientific studies that were done showing that this coal fly ash substance is horribly toxic for us and how it just destroys everything. So Dr. Herndon was savvy enough, and then Whiteside came on a little later. Dr. Herndon was the first guy. Whiteside joined him later. But Dr. Herndon knew about that, and so he knew where to go get that information. I didn't, and it didn't even occur to me that information even existed. But he went and got back and got all that information and went on to write all these different papers about what coal fly ash does to people, what coal fly ash does to the environment, what it does to insects, what it does to birds, what it does to bats. And this is in my biological impacts chapter. And yeah, I mean, do I have to tell you? It's horrible for everything.
Can we say that chemtrails? Here's one of the things that even as we look at this and as we look at your book, as we just looked at a video of the plane, These aren't little crop duster planes. These are big commercial jet airliners that are doing this. So this isn't some little weirdo in Iowa somewhere spraying over urban Kansas City. This is big business. Now, does that sound crazy, or am I right or wrong about that? I mean, that's a big ass plane.
Yeah. Well, this is the biggest scientific effort in history. It's bigger than the original Manhattan Project. I challenge anybody to come up with a scientific project bigger. I've traced this back over 100 years that they've been talking about how they want to manipulate the weather and control people's lives and stuff. And I have the whole development of the whole thing in the book, all like PDFs, government reports, documents where they admit themselves. These are self admissions of what they're doing. There's so many big government agencies involved. The Department of Defense is foremost, as well as the CIA, which works with the Department of Defense. There's the Rand Corporation, the MITRE Corporation, which is probably the most prominent in this particular project. If people haven't heard of the MITRE Corporation, MITRE, I have the evidence in the book. They're talking about spraying us with particulate matter and then hitting it with electromagnetic energy in the fashion of this new Manhattan Project that we see today. And that's the difference between the precursor industry, which was the silver iodide spraying stuff, where they're just either making it rain or suppressing hail, and today's new Manhattan Project. In the silver iodide thing, they just dump the stuff into the cloud and that's it. With the new Manhattan Project, they spray the stuff from the sky. Once it disperses, then they hit it with electromagnetic energy. And when you do that, when you have a binary weapon system like that, then you can produce any kind of weather that you want.
Okay, a term that we hear a lot regarding chemtrails is geo-engineering. What is that?
That's just the official term for it. That's just the code that they've given to it.
I was going to use two letters, but okay, there you go.
I traced the origin of that word in particular. People don't just organically just start saying geoengineering all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Words have origins, right? And so right. I was able to trace this geoengineering word back to a paper from 1978, I think it was. It was in the first edition of a journal called Climatic Change, and it was called On Geoengineering. It was a guy it was 1977, maybe. It's slipping my mind, but that was the official rollout of the new term that they wanted people to say, geoengineering. Actually, but you can look back at the history of it, and you can see that long before that, they were using a similar term. The scientists that came out of the original Manhattan Project and started working on weather modification, they were calling it planetary engineering, which is, the same thing basically. And so, these geoengineers, they say, oh, well, it started in the late 70s with the guy who wrote the paper called Geoengineering. No, it didn't. It goes way back before that. And they know that. They're liars.
All right. Let me hit you with this one, because the Air Force, as well as the EPA, aren't there whistleblowers now coming out on both sides of that, agreeing with you?
Our two best whistleblowers, one has come from the EPA, one has come from the Air Force. I forget the name of the guy from the Air Force. It's in my book. I think his last name is Rolling, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. It's Dane Wigington at geoengineeringwatch.org that has been handling the whistleblowers, and I've just been compiling the evidence. And so, there was a guy from the Air Force, retired pilot, who just talks like I'm talking to you right now. He says, "Yeah, they're spraying us, and it's horrible, and they're just killing everything." And then there was another guy named, I think his name was Michael Davis, from the EPA, And he has the scientific evidence for the fact that we are being sprayed. And he says that his colleagues at the EPA know full well that this is going on, and yet they do nothing because they like keeping their paychecks. They like staying in line for their retirement funds, and they're just going to let the world burn in order to get that. They're not going to have much of a world left if they continue if we continue on this path. But somehow they think they're going to be happy in a world that's just destroyed by chemtrails, where nothing grows and everybody's sick all the time, and nobody's happy. They think they can be happy in a world of unhappiness because they have money. I mean, this is just ridiculous. But yeah, we have whistleblowers.
Mr. Kirby, question. How does, because we've talked about the United States, we've talked about the Germans, how does China fit into this chemtrail conspiracy?
Good question. You're asking a lot of good questions here. This is, I think China plays into it big time, big time. I am under the impression that what I call the chemtrail fleet, in fact, more specifically, the proprietary chemtrail fleet. This is all in the chapter I have in the book called The Chemtrail Fleets. I do believe there are two different types of planes generally that are spraying us. One is a dedicated fleet that is completely covert, and these planes have been built from scratch to do nothing but spray us with chemtrails. And then I believe the other fleet is every other type of large commercial jet plane that has been outfitted with gear that can spray us. But the proprietary fleet, I am working under the impression that this was basically put together by China in Taiwan. There's a certain yeah. Okay. I see.
Wait a minute. I got to ask this because this is one of the next questions I'm going to ask. And I was getting, just remember what you just said, and I apologize for interrupting you. Could there be a connection to chemtrails and to COVID?
I haven't seen much there. I did write a little paper on that some years ago, but it was pretty mild.
How many years ago could you have written that? We just had COVID like last year.
Yeah, well, it was a couple of years ago. No, it was a couple of years ago.
Right, right.
COVID's been around for a little while here. But no, I haven't uncovered any real bombshell evidence there. And in fact, I kind of forget what it was that I wrote that paper about, but my science advisor was involved. I think they're two separate things. Basically, it's all tyranny and it's all bad, but I haven't been able to draw a whole lot of connections between the two.
Okay, how about chemtrails and Alzheimer's disease?
Well, yeah, there's lots of connections there. There's lots of stuff about that in my book. Dr. Russell Blaylock, he's retired now. He was one of the world's leading neurosurgeons. He's been very public about this, about his findings. And he became aware of the fact that there's a high concentration of aluminum in the stuff that we're being sprayed with. This was accomplished by rainwater samples and the analyzing of the rainwater to see what's in it. And once he saw that there were high levels of aluminum in it, he started making public comments and writing things about it. And it's quite well known, quite well supported by the scientific literature that when you inhale aluminum, specifically through the nose, like most people breathe, through their nose, the air goes up and hits the top of your nose and goes straight into your brain. It's like a real superhighway for stuff to go, from outside straight into your brain. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it does cause Alzheimer's and all kinds of other neurological diseases.
Let me go from one extreme to another, because we're talking about Alzheimer's disease. What about our little babies? What about our babies that now all of a sudden we have all these different type of diseases, these allergies, all of these things does this have any effect on our babies?
It's part of it. I believe that, and I do believe the evidence supports me in this statement, that we are looking at generations of brain damaged people through the childhood vaccines, the
Whoa, there.
fluoride in
See,
the
there you
water,
go. There you go.
the
Go
GMOs,
ahead.
and the chemtrails. I mean, you got a lot of toxins that are just, we're under assault, and it's been this way for decades. It's been this way for generations. And I'm sorry to say it, I just don't see the same kind of fire in today's kids that I used to see. You know what I mean? It's like they kind
Yes.
of just go through the motions and stuff. It's
They
kind
look
of
like
like,
they've
their
been
heart.
doped up on fluoride.
Yeah. And they look to me like they've been brain damaged. This to me was one of the hardest things when a long time ago, when I started realizing what was going on here specifically with the childhood vaccines. I realized what was going on. I remember getting on the bus. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and getting on the bus and just having this new perspective of looking around at people and just knowing that all these people have been brain damaged. I was fortunate enough to not receive a lot of childhood vaccines. I think maybe I got like 2 or 3 or something like that. And the water where I grew up was not fluoridated as well, and we didn't have chemtrails when I was growing up. And we didn't have GMOs when I was growing up. So I think you might have the same story. We're fortunate that we're not born into this current world, because kids they're just being murdered before they even get out of the womb, and it hurts me.
All right, listen, Dr. Kirby, and I'm calling you Dr. Kirby because you definitely educated us. I want to go back to how we started this show with the video of Prince. And when he mentioned chemtrails with the video we saw, he said that it affects our behavior. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's a lot of scientific, and how I mentioned that it's a binary system. They're spraying the stuff out, and then they hit it with electromagnetic energy. And people just generally become unhappy when they're being sprayed with toxic materials. But also, if the powers that be wanted to manipulate people with the electromagnetic energy, they can do that too, because there's tons of scientific evidence for the fact that electromagnetic energy, when directed at people, and when they have the right frequency and wavelength and all this stuff. I have a science advisor. She's constantly excoriating me to speak properly about these things, even though I doubt that I do. But they can hit you with electromagnetic energy and cause you to think certain things. They can cause you to feel certain ways. They can even cause your body to physically do certain things, just from remotely hitting people from miles away with electromagnetic energy. And they can do that over entire regions as well. And so what Prince was saying makes nothing but sense. And even though he may have been saying these things before, I think the big time domestic spraying thing started in the mid 90s, he may have even said that. I don't know when that interview was, but even before then, they were running these
I think it was
tests.
2009.
2000. Okay, well, that's definitely within the chemtrails thing then. Yeah, so there's not much point in me discussing that. But these programs go back to just after World War II. So but it's been done on like more of a smaller scale and regional things. But yeah, I do believe what Prince was saying there is correct, and I thank him for raising awareness about this issue.
You know what? I could actually talk to you for another 30 minutes, but I'm not. I'm going to respect your time. And I told you in the beginning how much I appreciated you coming on. I appreciate your time. People tuned into JimSpiracy because they wanted to laugh and joke, but slowly but surely, man, this show was turning into, in my opinion, one of the most informative shows on the internet. And it's because of people like you. Peter, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you again. And if we reach out to you, please come back. If you got another, if you come up with some more information, reach out to us because you've got a place right here, man.
I got all the information. Keep on asking questions, Jimmy. I got all the answers.
Thank you so much, man. We're going to be right back with something else from the book of James. All right, y'all. Welcome back to JimSpiracy. Let me thank y'all again for sticking with us. Thank y'all for tuning in, man, and just rolling with us. And I appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Tell your friends about it, man. Like that old Negro spiritual said I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it to myself. Go tell somebody.
Don't quit your day job.
Hey, the story today, huh?
With the singing, I said, don't quit your day job.
What, man, there you go again. You acting like somebody else, man. When you let me tell my story.
All right.
Listen,
get into the book of James.
Today's story is about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's Genesis 18 and 19, I think, something like that. Okay. And I guess I'm choosing this one because this is what week is this, Chris?
It's Pride Month.
Oh, Pride Month.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got the 16th or whatever. We got a day, but they get a month. Okay. Never mind. All right. I digress. That's all right. We got the 4th of July coming up. Anyway, listen, man. When we talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, and I think the Bible said that the cities are wicked. Now, on that note right there, I want y'all to just think of something that you've seen on social media today. Not yesterday, not last week. Something you've seen today that's just been wicked. How many times you just been setting up? You ain't got no harm, no dirt in your mind, and you looking on social media and you like, woo, that was just wicked. Okay, I got another question for all of y'all out there. Where do you think the word sodomy comes from? Okay, and I'll give y'all some time. Google the word sodomy. You Google the word sodomy, it's going to tell you that sodomy is the ghetto word for booty. Okay, now that's what if you're a sodomite, that's what you do. Okay, now, most of y'all know the story. God tells Abraham, he's like, hey, man, these folks ain't going to do right. So I'm going to have to burn this thing down. Okay? I'm going to have to destroy these cities. Abraham is like, oh, come on, hold up, G. Now, why would you do that? And God's like, man, because everybody in here is bad. Everybody. And I got to. And Abraham's trying to negotiate with God. Abraham said, well, what if there's 50 good men out there? God said, well, show me 50. Abraham couldn't find 50. He said, what about 40? God like, man, okay, find me 40. Man, he go down to 30, 20. He down to 10. Now, if you can't find 10 good men in a city, you got some problems. It was no dice. So finally, God's like, oh, well, man, I'm going to do what I told you to do. So God sends 2 of his angels to handle the city. And the angels goes to Abraham's house. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. The angels go to a good man's house, and the man was named Lot. Did I say that right, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is the part that got me. I never will forget when I read this in church. Because it pretty much says that a mob came to Lot's house. And the mob was like, hey, man, we just saw them angels come to your house. And I believe it says this in the Bible. And I don't care what Bible you look at. You can read the King James Version, the Chris Version, the Chris and James Version. I think the exact words was, send those angels out here so that we might have sex with them.
It says
I
we
believe that was
might know them, which is the biblical term for carnal knowledge. Yep.
No, man. My Bible said we might have sex with them. Now, look, I'm telling you what it said. Bottom line, that's what anyway.
Same meaning.
Listen, Lot said, now, and this always bothered me, but Lot said, no, those angels are guests of mine. And Lot said, I'll tell you what, I got some extra daughters back there in the back. I'll send them out for you. They like, nope, we want some of them boy angels. Send them out here. This thing got so bad, God had to, I think your Bible said that he blinded the mob. My Bible said that he brought a sleep to the mob. But if you blinded or if you sleep, guess what you can't do? You can't see. Okay. Now, due to the fact that the people couldn't see, and evidently this is what God had to do in order for the angels to get Lot and his family out. And as they're trying to get out, and it's like, come on, man, let's go right now. Let's go. And the angels told Lot and his family, let's go and do not look back. And evidently at this time, man, they said fire and sulfur and whatever was destroying the city. And I think the quote was, and he destroyed these cities and all of the country about, and all of the inhabitants of the cities, and all of the things that spring from the earth. Okay, Lot and his daughters followed orders. They done what they was told to do. It was only one that turned back to be like, what is going on back there? Only one. And that was Lot's wife. And what made it so bad, evidently, Lot had told her beforehand, girl, don't look back. God said, don't look back. Can't nobody tell me nothing. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. They said that she turned into a pillar of salt. I know y'all think that there's a little bit of humor there, but go read the story. It's in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29. And it says that it's going to happen again. Okay? That's what I think with all of this Pride Month and stuff going on. And I might have made that story sound funny, but I don't think there's anything funny about when God decides that it's time to, I mean, you don't want God talking about time to pay the piper, because he's going to be right there. So y'all go ahead and enjoy y'all's month. But he said that it's going to happen again. Hey, man, I'm Uncle Jimmy. I want to thank y'all. That's my guy, Chris Foley. That's the man with the plan. And look here, like we tell you every week, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we are absent, one from the other.
Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for.
Yeah, are you not entertained? Ain't this what they tell you hustle for? I'm on my gladiator monologues, Russell Crowe. And honestly, I don't see what the fuss is for. You let your money blow and all we trying to do is sow. Just so you know, this is Kingdom Biz. No Brooklyn Nets, I think we know who team this is. Come on, come all, and don't forget to bring the kids. And y'all gon' need a different planet just to dream this big. So bring your stacks to the table, and I'ma bring my fate. Then at the end of the day, we gon' see who win in this race. And since God is the judge, he'll probably throw out my case. So do us a favor, get that look off your face. They be like, you spit that fire, got them industry rap. Why you doing that Christian rap? Nobody listen to that. Then I reply with a sigh like I'm missing the fact. I'm trying to spread this holy gospel till my savior get back.
I'm going in one time, these record labels all in my face, trying to forfeit my race. But still I'm going in one time, no matter the opposition I face, staying true to my faith. I'm about to give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Well, everything they offer, yeah, I'ma give it back. You can have it, crossing the world on my back, Mr. Atlas. I'm trying to get the people what they lacking. That's why I act a donkey on the track. Get a passion. Got something to say. You wanted to play, then come running my way and ruin G status is dead. No, ready to go, about to go in. You already know. Got my instructions, now give me your audience, hand me your mic, and I'm ready to blow. One for the money, two for the show, three for everybody who encouraged me to go, get it. We finally did it. I ain't never turning back, shawty. I'm fully committed to my beliefs. I'm committed to the city, committed to the streets. I'm committed till they get it.
I was getting ready to hold up my telephone and say, how much does the cell phone activate the magnetic whatever's that we've breathed in?
Oh yeah, well, you know, it's producing electromagnetic energy, and it can produce the certain frequencies that are used for mind control. Your brain operates in a certain range of frequencies, right? So yeah, the phone actually does operate in that same range, oddly enough.
Whew, see, I didn't ask that question. I guess I really wish I would have. Chris, we might have to mix that in.
What they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need.